Yo, what's going on? It's been a while, huh? Yeah, sorry about the broken promise. So it's not Sunday or whatever random day I promised it was gonna be. It's kind of like 4 months in the future, but it's all good. Um, Today I'm gonna be sharing my testimony. Now, this one might be a little different compared to what you're used to, and I'll explain why afterwards. But for starters, I lived pretty unusual life, I would say, for the most part. I'm only 19 right now, but I got saved when I was 18, so this is only a few months back. And for most of my life, I lived under just really horrible conditions for the most part. My dad passed away when I was 5 years old, and my mom has like undiagnosed narcissistic personality disorder, and I'm not really just throwing that around. I'm like pretty sure about it. But needless to say, I didn't have much guidance when I was growing up or any form of role models per se. So I guess when I was growing up, I kind of learned to like hate adults in a way just because of what I had grown around. And one big contributor to that was the idea that like adults hit a certain age, like they hit the age of 18 and they think that they just know any and everything about the entire earth and that kids just don't matter pretty much. I don't know if I agree with that now, but that was how I saw things back then. So it really just gave me a drive and a want to just like show them that all this like pride that they have is really all for nothing. You hear them complain about like, oh, I gotta pay bills. Oh, you'll understand when you get to be my age, that kind of thing. I just completely hated the idea of all of that, and I just wanted to like be in their position and still be good to the world and not just be bitter and tell everybody like their life is easy and that they don't know struggle because they're not working or whatever kind of thing they try to put out there. But what's interesting with this is I got exactly what I wanted. I mean, right now you're looking at me sitting in the apartment that I pay for at the age of 19, and I guess I am doing exactly what I wanted. I don't complain about it, or well, at least not out loud. But I don't do any of those things that I say I didn't want to do. But I'm also not exactly happy about the way things ended up because I'm realizing now that all this is just kind of just stuff, you know. I'm just sitting in a big room or whatever, but there's nothing in here that actually matters. But yet it costs the money per month, and it's a whole huge responsibility that takes up a bunch of my time that I don't want. And I'm kind of just like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm kind of winging this. So if you're wondering how this is relating to God, so am I. But we can improvise, all right? So, all right, in all seriousness, I guess I'm bringing this up because I wanted to talk about how God basically gave me everything I wanted and showed me that it doesn't mean anything before he brought me to him. And I really appreciate that more than anything because The things that we desire in the world, they really don't matter at all in the grand scheme of things. Like, we all talk about it all the time, how nobody's really happy, not even the rich people. But yet we're all out like chasing these things like it's actually going to do something for us, you know? Like, we chase money, women, status, power, all that kind of stuff just because we think that it's going to make us happy, that it's going to do something for us. But it never really does. And I'm kind of living proof of that because at this point in my life, I have almost nothing to complain about. I own an apartment at the age of 19. I have like literally hundreds of friends. Um, I have pretty much everything you could ask for, but it doesn't make you happy without God, and it never will. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that can make you happy outside of God is within you. And if you look up in the mirror every single day and see somebody that you hate, it really isn't going to matter what else you have or what other kind of things that can supplement that. If you're a millionaire, if you have all the women in the world, you're the president of the United States, if you wake up every day and hate yourself, it doesn't mean anything. But we really don't have to live this way, honestly. As long as we have God, we don't really have to worry about any of that. And I learned that kind of the hard way because, well, I could say the easy way or the hard way because thankfully I didn't have to go through some heart-crushing experience to come to God, but I feel like I would rather have that sometimes than me doing everything I wanted and then just kind of getting slapped in the face at the end of it. But anyway, I guess this part's dragged on long enough. I'll get into the actual story here. So, now that you understand a little bit more about me as a person, um, the story here is that I moved out from my mom's house at 17 to go live with one of my friends. So I spent a year there, and it was a good experience overall, but it was really the first time I had to like be an adult, if you get what I mean. That was the first time I started because they didn't take care of. Okay, that probably sounds weird. Of course, they took care of me, but they didn't like let me live there just completely rent free. Well, it was rent free, but like I still had to buy my own food, buy my own clothes, like all that kind of stuff. Watch my like every other adult responsibility that doesn't include paying bills, I had to do for the first time in my life. And doing that really like showed me that the the adult life is nowhere near as hard as people will try to make it out to be. But it definitely is just as miserable, if you get what I mean. Like, it isn't hard in the sense of like, oh, everything's just so difficult. You'll never understand being like living like this or whatever. But it is just repetitive and exhausting. So I started to kind of understand that side of people a little more that like to just put kids down and keep them in their place or whatever. Well, like I still don't agree with it, but I started to empathize with it a little more. But then time went on and I started kind of having problems with the people I was living with, and problems with people at my job, problems with my own friends, everything like all kind of just added up at the same time. And I'm already a pretty angry person, but it was like at an all-time high at that point because it was just like all three sides or whatever you call it just pissing me off all at once. And then like I had some just horrible nights, just sitting there thinking to myself like what am I even supposed to do, bro? Like that was the first time I kind of looked in the lens of I can have everything, but if I'm not happy, like it means nothing. So then the best and worst thing happened at the time. My nephew, who's I would consider my closest friend, started to find God around this time. He started to read Matthew, and he would just kind of tell me things that he would learn about Jesus and God and all kinds of things like that in the Bible. And at this point, I was just like not having it because it was a horrible time. I already hated the idea of religion because I don't like egotistical people. And I also don't like, or well, okay. I didn't like egotistical people, and I didn't like people that enabled egotistical people. So the people that fall into the category of like worshiping politicians, worshiping the people that they work for, like their managers, anything in that category, I could not stand because I just thought those people were weak and shouldn't need other people to like give them their sense of approval and guide them and all that kind of stuff. I was kind of the idea that we should, I don't want to say operate under anarchy, but I didn't like the idea that other people would be given power over other people when they don't deserve it. But that was kind of the reason why I rejected the idea of religion, because it's like that but to the extreme. Like you're literally accepting the fact that you as a human have no value and are nothing, and that God is the only thing that matters, which obviously I understand is true now, but back then I hated the idea of that. So when my nephew brought this up to me, I just quickly shot him down, but I would also try and argue with him about things, and we argued about just multiple things regarding the Bible for maybe about a week. And I really was realizing, like, wow, I'm actually wrong. And when I say for once, that sounds really cocky, but I didn't really lose arguments with him much at all. So it was just kind of a weird thing. And it just wouldn't like get out of my mind. Like the fact that if there is a God, like I'm going to hell. But then there was a part of me that like wanted that. I was like, I liked the idea of like standing up to God or whatever you want to call it, because I thought it was like cool. But then one time when I was talking to my nephew, he was like, dude, do you really want to like burn for eternity? And then I sat there and really thought about it. I was just like, no, I don't. That's stupid. Like, why would I want to do that? Even if it was to prove a point or be independent or whatever you call it, it just doesn't make any sense. So then, I was just kind of like sitting alone with myself in the car the next day, just like kind of thinking to myself, like, why is it so stuck on my mind, just thinking about God? And then also, if he is real, then why is it so hard for me to accept him? And it was like at that moment that I thought to myself, like, you know, if I have this problem accepting him, then like I do have a lot of flaws that need to be worked on. So then at that point I was just like, you know what, just take over, Lord. So then at that point I just kind of like felt his presence, And later that night I went home and just went in my bed and did the sinner's prayer, I think they call it, where you say like, I repent for my sins and I accept the Holy Spirit, that thing, whatever. Prayed that, like, cried myself to sleep pretty much. And then ever since then, yeah, I've been walking with Jesus. I got baptized maybe 2 to 3 weeks after, which I actually did in this shirt, which is pretty funny. But anyway, uh yeah, that's how I got saved. And I feel now that as a servant of God, it's kind of my duty to put this testimony out there, even though I really don't like sharing it. But hopefully, somebody seeing this can come to God on their own just because of that. But if that might be you, I'm going to try and do everything I can to educate about what it actually means to be saved and how to do it, what it means to not be saved, all that pretty much. I'm gonna try and go over in some future videos, but I'm not gonna make a promise this time. It's just gonna come out when it comes out. But yeah, that's pretty much all. Thank you for watching the video. Yeah.